Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another awesome edition of the Dream Design Podcast with Amy Lee. This is the Dream Design Podcast, and I'm Amy Lee. So we've got all the pieces that we need. Well, not quite, because let me tell you, my guest today is one of my favorite humans. She is an incredibly powerful thought leader and healer. She is one of my best friends, and she just celebrated her first, wait for it, 6-figure month. Okay, so you do not want to miss today's guest. Gaby Abrams is here, you guys. I know, I'm that cool, right? I've got cool friends. Gaby is here. She's going to talk all about all of the things. I'm so excited. I will be right back with Gaby. You're listening to the Design Your Dreams podcast with Amy Lee, the show that challenges you to stop chasing your dreams and start designing them. Each week, I invite powerhouse creators who have built their dream businesses to come and share their words of wisdom and stories of courage. It is my hope that through the journeys of these incredible dream builders, you too will be inspired to design and build a life and business beyond your wildest dreams. And welcome back. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. I don't even want to waste one more second. She's here. Everybody give, out in the live audience, give Gaby a warm welcome. Hi, Gaby.
Hi. Oh my God, the excitement of waiting backstage. I'm just like, yes.
I know.
Ready. I love it. I love it.
So good to have you. We've got lots of folks joining us. Hello.
Hello.
So Gaby, oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever, but let's just get right into it. Let's talk about kind of your story, right? Like, where did you come from? How did you get here? How did you get to 6-figure months? This is insane. We're all about it.
So going way back, right? Where are we starting? I was a lawyer, in my former life. I was a lawyer in New York City, and then I stopped practicing law and I started my own business. I started a design and stationery shop. And I ran that for 5 years. I grew that to 6 figures. And then I kind of like encountered all of these blocks along the way, right? Like all of these, which now I recognize as like just the entrepreneurial blocks, right? But at the time it felt like it was just me. Imposter syndrome, money blocks. I could get to 6 figures, but like beyond that was just like, what even is going on? Visibility stuff. I was like, I do not want to be seen, right? Like only let my designs be shared. And then all these things, and I ended up discovering rapid transformational therapy, and I loved it so much that I got certified in it, and I transitioned into business coaching and combining that with RTT. And I love it. It's super powerful. So I transitioned in the spring of 2020, and now we're, fall of 2021. So it's been 18 months that I've been on this journey.
That's amazing. It's so cool. And, I tell people all the time, like we kind of started our like journey, this part of our journey kind of at the same time. And we kind of came up together, and it's just been so incredible to watch your transformation and, like all of the things that you've done in your business, but also you're really open about how much you've worked on yourself, right? Really open about how much of it is about mindset. So I would love if you have a moment to just kind of talk about that mindset piece and some of the shifts that you saw from where you were when you started your business to kind of where you are now.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It really has been such a journey, right? And there's so many layers to this mindset piece. There's so many layers to, I always think there's like the 4 core mindset things for entrepreneurs, which are imposter syndrome, visibility, money blocks, and self-sabotage. Because we are self-sabotaging ourselves all of the time. But even beyond that, right? Self-love, self-trust, worthiness, all of these things. And the more that you can deal with them as they come up in your business, the easier it is to grow. And you can do it in a really nice, grounded way that doesn't leave you like up-leveling all the time and like ricocheting back and forth and ups and downs, right? I thought that was just part of being an entrepreneur. And as I've done this inner work, I've realized like, it's really not. It's just us feeling like it is, but it doesn't have to be those ups and downs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that because we're all building our businesses kind of like, we're not building them in a vacuum, right? Like we're all surrounded by each other, and somebody might be like climbing while somebody else is at their plateau. And instead of going, oh, okay, well, she's at the beginning of the movie and I'm already in the middle, we go, oh my gosh, like there's something wrong with me that I'm not at her level. And it's like, but you don't understand, and you don't see that that person is on their own journey. And really the only person they should be competing with is themselves, right?
Yeah. I always say it's like, have you ever seen like a swim meet? You know, like when they're like swimming, and it's like you have no idea who's ahead and who's behind, right? Like there's no idea, you have no idea who's gonna win. Like sometimes it's like obvious, right? Like Michael Phelps, right? Like you watch him and you're like, all right, this guy's winning. But everybody else, you know, it's like some people are coming up for air before they like take off. Some people get that running start. Some people are really good at like that flipping wall pushing thing. And they like redeem themselves. You know, it's like there is no timeline. Like you can't watch a swim meet and be like, oh, that's who's gonna win. Just like it's like entrepreneurs too, right? And of course there is no winning, right? Starting there is no winning here, right? Like there's no like finish line, which I try to explain to my 6-year-old who's like super competitive. I'm like, you're gonna get to life and there's no winning. Jake's like, I don't know about that. My husband, I don't know. Like, please back me up here. Like there are no winners and losers in life. But yeah, it's really, it is. It just is, right? We're all on our own journey. I love what you said about not competing with anybody except ourselves.
Yeah, and that's, you know, to bring in that piece of kind of what you do, you know, as a rapid transformational therapy practitioner, as that, you know, you kind of help people, first of all, see, hey, by the way, this is a thing, right? This is something that happens, and we can get rid of it. Right? We can go in and we can remove that. So talk a little bit about RTT and kind of like what it is for those who've never heard of it, and then kind of like maybe give us some examples of like some transformations that have happened as a result of it. Because I don't think people really grasp that some of these modalities truly are life-changing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So rapid transformational therapy is the Marissa Peer method. She's this like British celebrity therapist. She's awesome. And it's a mix of hypnotherapy, NLP, which we love, cognitive behavioral therapy, and just traditional talk therapy. It's a really, really light hypnotherapy where you're totally lucid and you're having conversations, making connections, really living in that space that's like subconscious, but also conscious. And what it does is that it takes you back to the root cause of whatever it is. And it's really belief focused. So you'll go back to the incident that gave rise to the belief that you are now bumping up against. So something like, you know, let's say visibility, right? Like it could go back to being small and you're the lead in the play and someone sabotaged you, right? Or you tripped and fell or whatever, right? It could be that, you know, in my case, it was like, you might have imposter syndrome and you're like, but why? And it like goes back to being, you know, in grade school and getting accused of cheating on a test or getting caught cheating or whatever, right? Anything that gave rise to this belief, like I'm a fraud or something. I'm never believed. So many different beliefs that are contributing to where we are. And once you can like kind of realize that, right? That it's not just like this huge block, but it's just like little beliefs stacked on each other, and that you can transform all of those beliefs, the thought work really becomes so easy to do.
Yeah. And, you know, people don't even realize sometimes like that there are thoughts that they used to have that they vehemently believed that they don't believe anymore. And I don't have any off the top of my head, but they're like, for example, just like, oh, I'm 18 years old. At one point that was true. And you believed that. And we don't look at ourselves now and go, well, I'm still 18, but I'm also, right? Like we can shift our beliefs. A lot of times though, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like we don't want to. And part of that stems from not feeling like we deserve to change our beliefs. Or we don't deserve, you know, to have the experiences and the things.
Oh my God, my clip just popped off. I was like, what just fell onto my head? Hold on. Oh my gosh, that's really hilarious. That is so hilarious. Let me pop it back on. That's so funny. It just like popped right off my head and exploded. Hold on.
Your guides want you to know something right there.
Yeah, they were like, oh my God, there is something. I'll fix my hair eventually.
No,
I have a hair tie.
you're
So
fine.
unexpected moment in a live broadcast. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And even beyond, not feeling worthy of changing, there's a lot that serves us of not changing, right? There's always something that behavior serves. I see this especially with like imposter syndrome and visibility. It's like, well, when that's gone, I got to start. My hair looks very funny now, but that's okay.
It looks
It's like this behavior is serving us in some way, right? It's keeping you from having to show up. It's keeping you from,
right. Payoff.
yeah, there's a payoff, right? And I know that you do that work with people too. Sorry, this is going to be so distracting to me. I know that you do that work with people too, and you help them. Let me just fix my hair. I'm going to go off camera a second and just fix this.
Okay, no problem. So, at least it wasn't a nipple. I love that. While Gaby is fixing
I'm dying.
Hair, if you guys have questions for this incredible coach, this RTT practitioner / business coach, not RTT coach. That's an inside joke, me and Gabs. Feel free to drop your questions while she is fixing her hair. But you guys, I have to tell you, let's take a moment to kind of have this teachable moment. One of the things I love, and one of the things that most of Gaby's clients love about her, is she's so real, right? Like most people have this idea of 6-figure a month earners is like, oh, they're so out of touch. They have this whole team that works for them. They've got all these, extra, well, they have things I don't have. Well, Gaby's a perfect example of somebody who literally like does her own hair, does her own emails, does her. Like,
all right, I'm back. I just kind of brushed it.
She does so much of her stuff all by herself and still makes all these incredible shifts and, quantum leaps in her business. So let her be a testament to you that you can absolutely be an authentic human being who has, idiosyncrasies and faults and all of these traits.
So many
things endear people to you. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so true. It's like the things that we're the most embarrassed about are the things that end up being like the most likable about us or the most magnetic about us. And when you can see people being real and sharing who they really are, it's so refreshing. I think for so long, when I first came onto the space, entrepreneurship was really like super cookie cutter. Instagram was like full of like perfect feeds and there was like no, it was like, you cannot, anytime that you replied to someone, it was like, we are doing this, like me and my team, you had to really like give that illusion of having this really successful business right out of the gate. And it leaves you with so much imposter syndrome. It leaves you feeling like it's never safe to be yourself and that you have to hide all of these things.
Right, as I sit here and chew my nails on live TV. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's right. Yeah, you feel like you're not like you're held to a different standard because you're this coach, but like that's not ever going to be what makes somebody. I really want to work with her because she looks so immaculate and perfect. No, that's not how it works.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Heaven forbid you do work with those people. When you find out they're real, then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. I feel lied to, so it doesn't work out for you in the long run. We have questions though.
Oh, yeah.
Question. How do you realize what your block is when you're in the dark, like a total blind spot?
Maybe there's many, right? There is no one block. That's just the truth. My best advice is always heal what you need to get to the next level. Right? There's this like, idea that we're supposed to be perfectly healed, that there's like 100% blocks that we can work through, right? I'm just going to figure out exactly what it is. And the truth is that you just start with the simplest thing, right? You have to use this combination of healing and action to really get the results that you want. Because if you don't heal and then take action on it, you're never going to realize what the next thing that you have to heal is. And if you heal and if you don't, take action and you just heal, like you're just going to be left with lots of layers that you can keep working through and never getting to a point where it feels like you can take action. So it's really about realizing, I would say there's like two kinds of fear. There's fear of like doing something different, which is just your brain, right? This is how it works. It's just your biology at work. Your brain is going to be scared. Your brain is not going to want to take new action. It's going to want predictability and guarantees and all of these things, and it's not going to get them. Contrasted with fear of not being enough, and fear of failure, and fear of, what we identify as like imposter syndrome. And all of those things are the ones that you have to work through, right? But it never stops being scary, and you never stop being blocked, right? Like even now I'll go to take action and I'm like, I don't want to do that, and then I ask myself, well, why? Is this unfamiliar? And it's usually something a little bit unfamiliar, right? Like something at a bigger scale than I've done before, something that I haven't done in a while, something new. And I'm just like, all right, let me give myself the spaciousness to do it, and do it with time, and do it with good energy, and do it with peace,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really just allowing yourself that grace and that space to like understand that there are multi layers of why you don't want to do something, right? Maybe it's because you're scared. Maybe it's because you're like, oh, but that's a lot of work. Maybe, there's some risk involved. For me, like, I know my thing was always about choosing. It was always about like, oh my gosh, like I can just sit here and do nothing and then I don't choose the wrong thing. But that in and of itself is choosing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have someone who said, oh my God, your sons, I'm so crushing on them both.
They're funny. They are funny.
They are. They're adorable.
They're a lot.
Sons. I think someday our sons should play together. That would be
yes. Oh my gosh, they so should.
They so should. For me, I hesitate to be visible. I love my absolute anonymity, says Facebook user. And you are doing a great job of that right now because we have no idea who you are. So that is absolute anonymity.
Yeah, I love that. And there is so much, do the flip side, right? Like if you are, I think that we also have, and you do this, Amy Lee, this is like what you do, right? It's about creating a vision of visibility that you like, that feels good to you, right? Like I'm someone who is visible, but I don't enjoy being highly visible, right? Like I have I'm a 6'2" in human design. So I have that too. I have that hermit and I love it. I love, I really need like breaks, like if I'm really visible for a while, I need that break. I need, a weekend where it's just me unplugged, right? It's very, very important to me. And it's about creating a vision of like, visibility that works for you, that you enjoy, that it doesn't feel like you're like, when we talk about visibility, there's a lot of like past life prostitution wounds, right? And there's a lot of feeling like when I am highly visible, like I'm always going to be prostituting myself, selling, showing up, having, to get people to hire me. And there's a lot of like stuff wrapped up in there, and it's really about creating safety.
But also, I mean, and, this happens to be in the news right now, and it's something that I struggle with. And I mean, I don't know, call it conceited maybe, but like part of me doesn't want to be like a million billionaire because like, look what happened to Britney Spears, right? Like she literally was like, yes, I want the dream, I want the life. And then they just swept in and took over everything and told her what she could and couldn't do. And your contract says you can't talk to this person. And your contract says, well, I don't care that you don't feel well because you have 3 tours, coming up. And like, you don't ever want to give away that sovereignty because at the end of the day, you're still a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so how do you like reconcile? And I guess I'm asking you, how do you reconcile creating a personal brand and still being a human and that division and that boundary between your product and your personhood?
Yeah. That, I mean, the most powerful thing is visioning, right? Is looking, training your brain to look for examples of what it is that you want to see. So whether that looks like examples, the first is visioning ourselves, right? Envisioning ourselves in that role, what we want it to look like. And then the other is like looking for evidence of people that have the thing that you want, right? Who has that nice division of visibility and privacy that you like. Like, I really like, let's say, Denise Duffield Thomas, right? I really like her. And I love the way that she's visible. She's visible in this way that feels really authentic, that feels really real. And she always says like, I don't do local stuff because I don't want to be famous locally, right? I don't want to be recognized. Some people are dying to be recognized, right? I have friends and clients and people that like love being a local celebrity, that love going out to the supermarket and being recognized, that brings them joy. And it's about figuring out what brings you joy and being okay with that. Not feeling like you should have to do it a certain way because you can always find evidence one way or another.
create a vision of visibility that I like and works for me. I love that. Thank you, Gabby. I'm going to daydream on that one. What do I want it to look like? It's from a place of power. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so question for you. So you went from, I'm going to kind of take it back for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You went from being a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, doing that whole, and that's a dream in and of itself, right? Like you worked really hard to get there. It's not like you just went, oh, let me just fill it out. Like we want to acknowledge that there was a path that took you there that you were on. And then, you know, you went and you did your other business, your Etsy business, and then you came over here and did this. So what would you say, you know, I think this is always inspiring to people. What would you say were some of like the deal breakers, like the things that you were like, okay, when I make this new business, this is a rule and this will never happen. What are some of those things that you could share with us?
Oh my gosh. It's so, you know, that's such a good question because you really do learn from like every single thing that you do. And I think that, you know, going from law and stepping into design, it made me really realize like I was not going to compromise on my happiness for money. Right? Like I was not going to, if I was into it for money, like I would go back to practicing law, right? Like I was in this business to do it differently and to create alignment. There were a lot of people that would tell me, you should do graphic design for businesses. You should do corporate graphic design. And I was like, why would I do that? For that, I would just be practicing law to do something that I don't enjoy, you know? So that for me was like my non-negotiable when I was in design. When I transitioned into coaching, I was like, I will not, and there were so many lessons that I brought with me into coaching. And I think that that's why I was able to grow it so fast because I came in with so many lessons. I was just like, I am going to show exactly who I am from the beginning. That to me was like, I'm not going to compromise. Because I felt like I didn't do that in my first business. You know, I felt like I had to be really, you know, kind of like not generic, but like you know, it wasn't me, right? I wasn't the face of my business necessarily. So like my business was very, you know, for moms, bridal showers, baby showers, and it felt very vanilla. And I was like, I don't want to bring that. That vanilla energy feels really stifling to me, and I'm not going to bring that into my business. I'm going to be just me. And that's what I came in. I was like, I'm just going to start a business being me from the beginning, doing what I want to do on my own terms. And I think that when you can come in, it's kind of similar to that energy that I brought in the second time, right? Into my first business, where I was like, I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to be a corporate. I'm not going to be, you know, this. I'm going to be happy and fulfilled.
I'm like thinking as you're saying, like, I'm just going to be me. I'm like in my head doing the chicken dance. Like, I don't want to be a duck. I don't want to be a chicken. I just want to be me. I was just thinking.
Yeah. Well, do that. I love that. Bring that energy into your business.
Yeah, it's not you though. You though.
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine you in a chicken costume.
Oh, me? Me specifically? Right.
Oh, I'm not. No, that is so not.
You know, this is like the manyth time that I've been compared to a chicken or a turkey or something. So it's like hilarious. Like you're like the fourth person to be like, I just envision you in this like chicken costume.
Well, you know,
I'm like, really?
Look at like the NLP aspect of it, right? So like look at like Darren Brown, like you have like fuzzy like earrings on. So maybe that gives like the vibe.
It's hilarious. It's very funny. It's so funny. It's like one of those things, like a random thing that like comes up often enough in your life that it makes you think.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have anything like that, but I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. Yeah. Jesse, if you're out there watching, we just talked about chicken.
So funny. You're welcome, Jesse.
Totally. So, okay. So let's talk real quick about what some of the things that you have done with clients and how, yes, Darren Brown, absolutely, about, you know, some of the transformations that you've seen. So like we worked together and this happened, like just to kind of give people wet their whistle a little bit about like, what RTT can really do.
Yeah, it's really funny. So a lot of my clients, there are a couple of like patterns that really come, you know, people will usually come when they're like bumping up against something, right? They're either bumping up against some kind of monetary goal or there's something that they really want to do that they just haven't been able to bring into fruition, no matter how talented and strategic they are. And some people like notice some patterns, right? Like, for example, I've had clients that, a couple, right, that create businesses, really successful businesses, and then they fall apart, right? And then they create another business. And then at a certain point, when it gets to 6 figures or whatever, 7 figures in some cases, it falls apart. And it's so interesting in RTT, because you can actually just ask your subconscious, right? You can ask like, what is the root cause of the reason why I, fear success, or why I can't keep growing my business after a certain point. And people will go back to like all kinds of memories, right? And in some cases it's, I had one really powerful one that always stands out to me, where she was like, she's like, there was nothing, right? There was like nothing in my childhood. I had an awesome childhood. And then when she went back, she remembered bankruptcy. Her parents had gone through bankruptcy, right? And so there was like that big, this belief, like when things are going well, then we lose it. Hold on, I'm gonna.
Real life, ladies and gentlemen, real freaking life. I have a yippy dog too, but he's way over there. But if he was anywhere near where we are right now, he would be just as loud. So, oh, you're muted though, Gabs. Oh, okay.
We continue our interview -1 hair clip and +1 dog.
Oh, good. Jessie is here. Yeah, we were just talking about chickens.
Yes, Mia's here. Mia's here joining us.
Hi, Mia.
I'll leave her back here. And another one, visibility is a really big one. And especially with visibility, I think that there's like this visibility paradox where people don't feel visible and they also feel too visible. Like, so they feel like they're invisible and nobody's watching them. And then they feel like they're like, everybody's watching them and they're being judged all the time. Mm-hmm. And your brain can't have those two conflicting beliefs, right? What happens is that your brain shuts off and just doesn't show up because it's confused. And so it's really like going in and figuring out, what's there, right? What are the beliefs that are leading you to feel this like very, very confusing, paradoxical thing? And usually it's like some fear of rejection, some incident where you were, forced to believe that you were not seen, right? Like either you were overlooked, and sometimes it's so easy. It's like, someone was calling roll and they skipped over your name, right? And you're like led to believe like, oh no, nobody sees me. And nobody mentioned that they skipped me. All of these little tiny beliefs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they all kind of stem from that one, I think they call it a gestalt, right? Like that one moment, that like super belief, or that super moment that then creates a whole bunch of little beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that you bring that up, because initially people will come and they tell me, I have imposter syndrome and it's because, in college, XYZ. And I'm like, no. Like what you experienced in college was triggering the belief that was already there.
Right.
Like that, this was like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 15th, 20th time that you dealt with this belief. It's just the first time that you noticed it in a way that didn't serve you.
Right. Or we're intellectually sound enough at that time, right? Because when you're young, you're still growing and you're like, so I have a funny story to tell you. My son, he's 7, and he decided that he wants to be tough, and he must have watched a movie where people have tattoos. So he got a hold of a permanent marker and he drew like this heart, like right here on him with like a broken thing. And then he's got like these like stick animals over here. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh, they're wolves. And so like in his world at 7, he genuinely looks at this and thinks that it looks like this, like really nice, very well artist, but I'll have to take a picture of it and show you later, Gabby. It's hilarious, but it's like this like with the little stick legs. And to him, that's a wolf. Right? He's like covered in tattoos now at 7. And so, how we process things as children, when we get older, we can go, oh, okay, that's connected to this. And so that's when we kind of create that moment of this must be when it happened. But we don't necessarily understand what's going on until you get in with you during like an RTT and say, okay, where's the moment where this happened? Now we have that adult intellect to connect the dots and go back and go, wait a second, where's the first time I felt, oh, it's over here. I didn't understand that at the time, but now I look at it and I'm like, okay, that's the moment. And so being able to kind of just look at that, my little tat man. I love it. Oh my God, it's so hilarious. And it's permanent, so I'm sure it's still there. But oh my God, he's so.
When I was little, I remember I got like oil pastels and I drew on my brother on, like all over his body with oil pastels. It was like very hard to take off.
Well, it's funny too, because now he thinks that he's in trouble, like, because
Aww.
he's Jewish, and
Yeah.
we're like, buddy, like,
Yeah.
you know, like if you want to grow up and get tatted out, like that's your life.
Totally
you know?
fine. Totally
But
fine.
again, that, you know, that limiting belief and that feeling of like, oh, this is gonna bring me shame. Like we don't even realize how much of that imprints on us as children.
Yeah.
And then we take it into our adult life, and like an event happens that triggers it. So we then think, oh, well, that's what caused it.
Yeah.
That was just the reaffirming of that belief.
Yeah, and it's really hard when you are or were, right, an empathic or empathetic child, because there's so much of like that we internalized that was really something that we just perceived. That was just our perception, right? Like your son and feeling shame, right? Maybe he's feeling like, oh no, like I've shamed my family with these tattoos, like we're Jewish, we don't do this, you know? And it feels like he's like contributing somehow, and you're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It is very fine.
And even if you got a real one, it'd be fine, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. We got another question. So the imprints are generally always from childhood. How do we help our kids then?
That's a fantastic question. It is so hard to do this work and have children, because every single moment I'm like, this is it. This is the RTT moment. Definitely this one. And I think the most important thing is to give you some comfort, right? As a parent of children, is that communication is the most important thing, right? And the reason why these little traumas are the ones that tend to come up in RTT sessions is because they're the ones that we don't have conversations around, right? Like people think that it's going to be this like really traumatic, you know, like a divorce or whatever. And they tend not to come up because there is so much conversation and communication around it. Right? There is so much. It might have caused you a lot of pain. It doesn't take away from the pain, but the trauma imprints differently when there's understanding around it. The most difficult and challenging trauma are these little traumas where little kids make their own perceptions and create their own beliefs around it. So going back to that question, the best thing that you can do is try to have open communication as much as possible. Don't dismiss your children when it comes to these small kinds of things, right? Because the small things tend to be the big things. And also just letting go, right? There's going to be no way to be a perfect parent knowing the way that we do about how trauma imprints. There's just not, right? Like, for example, the other day, Levi, we have like 2 Mario games, and one he really likes, because I think that kids today have like also different kind of like spatial awareness than we did. And so one is like 3D, and I love it because it's very easy for me. And one is 4D, and that one's really easy for him. It's so hard for me. So he was telling me, he was like, how come when I win at a level in Mario Odyssey, you say cool, but when I win at Mario 3D, you say awesome? And I was like, I don't think I'm actually paying attention to either time that you tell me that you win a Mario game. But to him, he was like, oh, my mom likes this game better. So when I perform better at this game, she's prouder or happier. And he had like formed this belief. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so big, right? Because that's something that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life, right? Like then as an adult or teenager, right? You're like, I'm going to pick this major, which is going to make my mom happy, because when I do the things that she likes, she's really happy with me, or she's happier. And we become these like people pleasing, parent pleasing children, right? But it starts with like these very, very small moments and beliefs. And I was like, oh, I was just like, I don't feel that way. Like, I'm sorry if that was maybe there is some truth to it, right? Maybe subconsciously I'm like, hear Mario Party and I'm like, oh yeah, cool, right? Or whatever. I perk up more when I hear the one that I like. But I'm like, don't let that make you feel that there's any impact there.
Yeah, and I definitely would echo what Gaby said about the hyper communication too, because with my daughter, so she's 9, and I get really overwhelmed. Like I have 5 kids, they can get all around me, and like I'm an empath, but I'm also an introvert. I know you guys don't believe that, but I really am. And so sometimes I just need a break. I need to literally go seclude myself in my room. And so Alana will come in and be like, Mom, can we have mom time? And I will like literally say to her, I love you. This has nothing to do with you. I am just emotionally spent right now. But let's, circle back and like make a time. Like I go out of my way to be like, I feel like this, but don't you dare attach this to you.
Yeah.
Because maybe, hypothetically that may have happened to me when I was growing up. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, but maybe, but could have. It is possible. So that is something that I've really strived to do. And so Facebook user says, so when my daughter 12 comes home and needs to talk for 45 minutes about how this kid behaved towards her on the bus, listening and letting her process and talk it all through.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And just letting, at the end of the day, love, right, is really like the most important thing, allowing our children to feel loved. And there's so many ways that, we have different love languages, first of all, just starting there, right? The parents and children can have very, very different love languages. My 2 children have very different love languages, right? Like Noah is super physical touch. Like Noah will sit there next to me and just like snuggle for an hour. Levi is super quality time, quality, like very much on his terms, right? Like he wants to play the game that he wants to play in the way that he wants to play it. And you playing along with that is love to him, right? And so it's really like understanding that to me as a parent is challenging, right? Showing love in that way. So it's like, it has to be that communication, right? Like, I understand that this to you makes you happy, right? And I'm going to do it because I know that it makes you happy. And to me, the way that I like showing love is, doing something else, right? Giving you a present or a hug or whatever, right? So understanding that when I do these things too, this is the way that I'm showing you love. So that there's that giving and receiving.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with communicating that to your children. Like people are like, oh, there are children, we need to be the parent. Yes. And there's also, we're in a new dimension, right? We've got children coming in that are much more astute and acutely aware of their energetic surroundings. So, we don't have to make it the elephant in the room anymore. We can say energetically this, or, this isn't my favorite way to do this. This makes mommy uncomfortable, but let's do this instead. Kids are smart and they understand, and we don't have to talk to them. And I'm not saying you do this. I'm just saying, like, out there to the world, we don't have to talk to them like they don't get it, because they get a lot more than we give them credit for. And it's when we whitewash all of that we start to create, as Gaby has coined, the most amazing term is trauma with a little t.
Yeah. So, I don't think I don't think I coined that, but I do say that all the time.
She says it all the time, and it's like a Gabyism, right? Like there's a whole dictionary of Gabyisms. You guys can get that on Amazon for XYZ. But Gaby, talk a little bit about the difference between trauma with a big T and a little t.
Yeah, so trauma with a big T is what we think of, right? And people will come and they say, I didn't have any trauma in my upbringing. And I'm never going to correct them, right? I don't want people to think that they had a traumatic upbringing. But what they mean is they didn't have big T trauma, right? Which is abuse, whether it's sexual or physical or verbal, divorce, death in their family. Maybe they lost a parent. Maybe they had a parent that lost a parent. Maybe they lost a sibling. That would be big T trauma. And then little T trauma is like all the small things, right, that come and make you feel less than worthy, that come and change your beliefs in some way that, turns out to no longer serve you. So little T trauma might look like failing a test. Maybe it would look like, losing a friendship, having a parent with a different love language. All of these little small things that you would not necessarily go back and say, oh, I had a terrible childhood because that thing happened to me. Another big T trauma that I forgot to mention, bullying, is big T, right? Especially when it's big and it's pervasive. It does tend to lead to like a very unhappy, it's abuse, right? At the end of the day, it's usually verbal, physical abuse. So rarely, I think, sexual, but sometimes too. And so I would qualify that as a big T trauma. But little T trauma is basically anything else.
Yeah, that's such a good way to say it too. Yeah. And understanding that little T trauma can compound and become big T trauma if we don't deal with it.
Yeah. And that the opposite is true too, right? That within big T trauma, there is a series of little T trauma events, right? Like, so when we talk about, and I'll see it come up over, and sometimes people will say, in an RTT session, they're like, something came up, which I've already dealt with. And I'm like, but in what context have you already dealt with it? Because that event is filled with tiny little events that led you to feel all kinds of different ways, right? Like a divorce. My parents got divorced. That's a big T trauma. Now, little T trauma is like the moment that your parents sat you down and told you that they were getting divorced. And then maybe like your parent got up and ate ice cream. And then you're like, nobody even cares, right? Like, this isn't even a big deal. Like, someone could go and eat ice cream after this. And you form that belief of like, my parent doesn't even care about this. And that's a little T trauma within a big T trauma.
Or
You know what I
buy
mean?
you a present, like, here, let's buy you a Barbie and buy your brother a truck so that you can get through this better. And it's like, my family's imploding and you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And so I'll see a lot of that, you know, where people have where they're like, you know, I'm going back to my parents' divorce, but then it's like a very specific event within that divorce, right? It's like the moment that the parent said something, or, you know, whether it's, you know, don't worry, your mom will take great care of you or something like that, right? Where it makes you feel like, oh, shoot, you know?
Totally. So, Gaby, speaking of all these wonderful things that you help people with, how do people find you if they want to get with you? And like, do you have any like kind of like dip your toe in the water with Gaby kind of thing that you could talk about?
I do. So I have the best way is my website, www.gabyabrams.com. Perfect. Yeah. Because you can pull up, I have a free hypno recording that you can test out. So it's a 28-day recording that you listen to daily. People love it. It's been downloaded so much. And then I also have like a really small kind of like a sample pack of RTT sessions, especially if you are an entrepreneur. It's an awesome one to get. It has imposter syndrome, visibility, money blocks, and fear of success. And that is kind of like the whatever, not trifecta, quad, whatever the word might be, of entrepreneurial blocks, I find.
I love that. And then you also have a Facebook group too, right?
Yes, and I also have a Facebook group called Ready for More.
Oh, that one didn't work. Hold on. There we go. There it is.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Gaby. It's been amazing. Do you have any like last minute final thoughts? Anything else you want to share?
No. Oh my gosh, it was so fun joining you. I'm so happy. I'm so sorry about the hair clip incident.
Oh, it's
the great hair clip incident of 2021. But yeah, there was something. It was the fiery energy coming off between us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was like, I cannot.
The guys are like, who do I talk to here? What's going on? Like,
I love it. Yes.
And then guys, just so you know, Gaby is a member of my group, which is Dream Building Entrepreneurs. So if you have a question for her that you want to ask privately, semi-privately, but maybe, you know, your mom watches your feed and you don't necessarily want to share that, she is in that group. We'll make her a thread so she can answer questions in there as well.
Absolutely.
I love it. Oh my goodness. So much
Yay, thank you guys.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for being here, Gaby. And yeah, guys, check out her group, come hang out with her, my group, you know, join her group and ask her questions, all the things. She's amazing. You guys now see why I just adore her. So thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for this week's incredible guest. And like I said, she is amazing. She's one of my favorite people. Follow her everywhere she goes. Follow her on Instagram. She is just such a wealth of knowledge and joy and love, and she's just incredible. So I'm so glad we were able to have her here. We will be here again next week with another great guest. Until then, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, and may you be at peace. Namaste.